everyone, and welcome to our Mother's Health podcast. And we're continuing with our series, The Superwoman Syndrome. And today's title is quite interesting. It's between home and hospital. So this is a Lebanese woman's birth story in Germany. And the theme is culture, migration, silence, and childbirth. And I'm Dr. Vivian Chinwa, and I am your host. And with me here is a very special guest, and I'm going to introduce her in a sec. But before I introduce her, I'll just lay a bit of background introduction to our discussion today. For many women, childbirth doesn't happen in one place. It happens between culture, between lots and lots of culture, because either by marriage or by migration, and between languages, and between what we're taught at home and what we're told in the hospitals. So it's quite interesting. In today's episode, a story of birth across borders. A Lebanese woman living in Germany, navigating pregnancy with the weight of culture and expectation, a healthcare system that didn't always seem familiar, especially for us that have migrated to different countries. We experience a lot of culture shock. And this is our Mother's Health podcast, and this is her story. And on that note, I'm going to welcome Jinan. Please, can you introduce yourself?
Thanks a lot, Vivian. Thank you for the nice introduction. So my name is Jinan. I originally come from Lebanon. I came to Germany in 2016 to do my PhD, and it's been 10 years I'm here. So I got married in between. I had a kid, and here I am. Thank you, Vivian.
Thank you, Jinan. And also to mention, Jinan is a very dear colleague, and I've worked with her for several years. So I'm so delighted to have you here with me, Jinan. Welcome to our Mother's Health podcast. Before we talk about pregnancy, I'd love to go a little back. Growing up in Lebanese, what were you taught about pregnancy and childbirth? What's your culture like? From before migrating to Germany, what was the culture? What was the story there?
So I would say our culture is still a little bit conservative in a way. So of course, before I got married, before I got pregnant, I used to hear lots of nice things about having a child. And in a way, if you grow up as a girl in Lebanon, you would feel in a way that you are obliged at some point in your life to have a kid. So they always tell you, this is life. You have to get married. You have to have a child at some point. So of course, I didn't do that for that reason, but I'm just telling you about the culture in general. So for women, it is the standard that they get married at some point and have a kid. So
thank you for sharing that. But also like to ask again, what did endurance look? Because we're talking about the superwoman syndrome. What does endurance look like in your own culture?
Yeah, so I told you, so it's one of the duties in a way for a woman to have a kid at some point in their lives. And of course, you would have to do your other duties. So not only being a mother, but maybe also go to work, take care of your kid, take care of your home. So you have to be like the superwoman who's multitasking, who's doing lots of things at the same time. So this is what I can tell you about my culture.
Okay. So what did childbirth look like? Was it something that was spoken about or something that was quietly endured? Yesterday, we looked at the British culture, and while speaking with Joe, we looked at the British culture, the culture of silence, where people are so polite in the UK, they don't want to speak. Is that similar for you in your own culture, that people just quietly talk about it and just endure similarly?
Do you mean people or mothers among
mothers being quiet? They don't want to talk about their experience. They just endure things quietly. Well, is that similar to your culture?
I would say people might talk about it, but in very close circles. So if you have a very close friend, they would share the experiences of childbirth with you. But of course, it's not being shared openly. So it's not being spoken about in a very open manner, let's say. So,
and that could be a big problem for some of these culture. I think pregnancy should be spoken about, just like what we are doing. We're creating forum for people to share their pregnancy stories and to discuss maybe the issues pertaining to women, because when we share things, we feel safe, we feel secure, and we could also relate with other people that have experienced the same thing. So it shouldn't be a thing of shame or people just hide away from their own experience. They don't want to be perceived as weak in their own culture. They want to all act like they're strong. So people don't really share their weaknesses. They just want to put it aside and just endure whatever they're going through.
Exactly. So I tell you from my own experience, I heard childbirth stories from my close friends, but which is something like I didn't hear before. I wasn't pregnant yet. So I would say that people talk about it, but only in very close circles. Yeah. But I have to say, everyone's experience is different. Maybe we could talk about this in a bit after we ask a few questions.
Everybody, and it's still good if people can still connect to their friends and a group. That's still a lot of support.
Exactly.
So let's talk about moving away from home. I also moved away from home, from what I was familiar, and people that was the support system that I had. So that's similar to your story as well, moving to Germany. How did you find that emotionally and culturally? Or what can you share about moving to Germany from?
Back then, Vivian, in 2016, or?
You moving, the culture shock when you had a baby in Germany, isn't it, didn't you?
I had my baby in 2024 in Germany.
So the culture shock during pregnancy, moving away from the support system you have to Germany.
When I moved in 2016, I didn't experience this cultural shock at all because I came here to do my PhD. I was young, so everything was okay for me. So I was independent. I didn't need lots of support because I was doing everything by myself. But I felt that cultural shock when I actually had my child. So in 2024, I felt like this lack of support system. I felt that this is really missing in my life, and everything I have to do is by myself. And as a woman with a child, doing everything by herself is very challenging. And I started having those questions in mind. Am I doing the right thing here? I need support.
So did you feel like you didn't have the support from the German system? You didn't have that support? It didn't feel that way?
The German system, specifically for mothers, you could get lots of support. So the issue is not in the German system. I would say it's more culture. It's more a cultural thing. So, of course, when you have a child, if your mother was living in the same area as you are, your mother could provide lots of help, lots of support, not necessarily taking care of the child, but maybe by, I don't know, cooking for you or...
Exactly. And obviously, you're faced with the German system and their culture, which you're living in right now. And you've come from a different country. Were you caught between the two worlds? How did that feel for you? Did pregnancy heighten the feeling of being in between these two worlds, German and you coming from, also as a Lebanese woman? What's your experience like between these two cultures?
Do you mean that during pregnancy or after pregnancy?
Either after pregnancy.
Because why I'm asking you is because during pregnancy, I was still living my normal life. So pregnancy didn't really affect me much. So I was totally okay. I didn't also have any bothering symptoms. So I was living totally normal. But I think things hit me hard after I gave birth. So I felt that a big change in my life. And this is maybe where I felt like torn between two cultures. So there are lots of things that are different here, of course. And I think if I had a child in Lebanon, things would have definitely been easier on me. So
can you give an example? I'm interested to know any particular example that felt really shocking and different for you.
A very general example, maybe. So I think when I had my child, I really isolated myself in a way. So I was always so scared going out with him. And I think there was no one here who would actually motivate me and tell me, no, you have to go out. It's not okay to isolate yourself. So I would say if my mother was next to me, she would have supported me a lot. And she wouldn't have allowed me to stay at home all day. So she would have given me lots of support and strength.
It's good that you share that because a lot of women are isolated and that isolation can lead to postnatal depression.
Exactly.
Because I know you because you're very outgoing, you attend conferences, you do a lot of very active things. Even in our university, you do a lot, you're so involved. And to find out that you can't just go for conferences without proper planning, or just leave your home. It's just feel like that. I felt the same when I had my child, because in my culture, women stay indoors for at least 3 months. Some people stay 6 months at home where they're being cared for and supported. But the culture shock was coming into Europe and see women have their children one day and the next day they were outside. And I was like, what is going on here? And I was just peeping out of the window looking at them to see, can I even go out? Can I even take the transport or take the train and take my child with me and just go out and feel free like I used to? And it was a big culture shock for me.
Just to point out the one thing, Vivian, I didn't do that because my culture tells me to do that. Of course, in my culture, you have to stay home for, I think, 40 days. Why? Because people come and they congratulate you on the newborn. So during these 40 days, but after those 40 days, you can go out afterwards. So I was maybe isolating myself because I only felt scared to go out. And you reminded me when my son was, I think, around 6 or 7 months, I started going out to family centers, which is something we have here in Germany, where parents meet, kids play and stuff. And I remember I saw a mother who had a 3-week-old baby with her.
Yes.
And I was really surprised. How could she do it? So I had a little chat with her, but she told me this is her second child. And it usually gets easier with a second child, that you can start going out earlier than your first. So
thank you. I think similar to me, I was like, what are these people doing out of their houses? They should be indoors. And one feeling I also had was like, oh, my baby is not immunized. I don't want infection.
Exactly.
I was afraid for that. I was really afraid. And also, I was also afraid of, what if the baby falls? What if something happens? I wanted, the maternal instinct kicks in. You want to be overprotective. So I wanted a lot of comfort and maybe a lot of support to help me stay indoors. I was afraid of the world out there.
I was mainly afraid of him getting sick. So I think we act as mothers the way our mothers acted with us, in a way. So if I think about my own mother, she was also overprotective in some ways.
I will pick up some of those things from our culture and want to bring it into this new life that we have created as well. So thank you very much. And also to mention, this is Dr. Jinan. So she's very experienced and she's a professional in public health and global health subject and field. So she's a very experienced person and a career person as well. So her experience will help to bring enlightenment to a lot of women out there that also are professionals and also experience all of these things we're talking about. We are very outgoing. We are always out there at the university doing one thing, doing programs, going conferences. But when we are faced with childbirth, it's something nobody ever prepares you for. The changes, the experiences we have, and how we continue to even thrive in the work environment and just still achieve what we need to achieve is something that should be celebrated and something that should be applauded, because it's not easy. I think, Jinan, you can agree with me that's not an easy experience.
Not at all.
So let's go to the German healthcare. I hear, because a lot of time when we teach public health subject and do the research, we hear the German system is one of the best systems in the world. We hear the best. So how did you experience the German healthcare system during pregnancy? Were there language and communication barriers? Did you feel comfortable asking questions and expressing your fear or pain in the system?
I have to be honest with you, I had a very positive experience. So all my questions were answered. So I can speak German. So I didn't feel this language barrier playing a role, but I think
because language. Wow.
But I think for other, mothers who don't speak the language, it might be a barrier, even though in Germany, lots of doctors can also speak English, so. But if you cannot speak, I did my research with refugees who can neither speak English nor German, so I think this would be a very big barrier for them. Because the system doesn't provide translators. You have to provide your own translation service with you when you see a doctor. So this of course would make it a big barrier. But I had a positive experience overall. I was at some point so scared of childbirth, and I communicated that with my doctor. Yeah, they offered, that I could also do a C-section. And I remember, Vivian, we had a conversation once,
Yeah, I
both of
remember.
us.
Yeah, both of us. Yes.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't add to your problem. I remember I was telling you need to use gas if you feel pain. Just get a gas.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. You told
Yeah.
me about it. Yeah, and they said, like if I really wanted to do a C-section, that's not a problem. We can do that. So yeah, they were really understanding, I have to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing story. But we can imagine because obviously you speak the German language, like you said there. A lot of people that cannot speak the language, this will affect their appointments, how they communicate their
Yeah.
Did you learn how to, when you migrated, or it's a subject you learned before you arrived?
I had plans to come to Germany before I moved here.
Okay.
So I studied a little bit in Lebanon, in Beirut, Lebanon, and then when I came back, I continued, the language. So even though, and for my PhD, I didn't really need the language, but for daily living, it is important to know the language. So yeah.
Okay, thanks. So let's talk about your birth experience. Were you comfortable? Can you tell us about the birth itself? Were there moments that stood out? Did you feel they listened to you during labor? Were there moments where you felt powerful when having your child?
Yeah, so as I told you, I was scared of childbirth, but it ended up a very positive experience at the end.
Wow.
So I didn't do a C-section. I went with natural birth, and it was a very positive experience, I have to say. So of course you definitely feel the pain, but
Yeah.
I think you just have to trust your body. So your body knows what it's doing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, I always tell everyone that yeah, it was painful, but I enjoyed the pain, because as you said, Vivian, like you feel so powerful at the end, like
Yeah. You feel like a superwoman at the end.
exactly, yeah. And when you have your child between your arms,
Yeah.
that feeling, is not comparable with any other feelings. So
Yeah.
you forget everything immediately, I have to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it was like, I remember the feeling at that moment. It was just like, love at the first sight. So when I saw
Can
him, yeah,
imagine. Yeah.
it's worth it. So yeah, and you feel, how powerful you are as a woman.
Yeah.
So of course I'm not judging, women who opt for C-section, because I think C-section is also as
And
difficult
powerful. Yeah.
and powerful
Difficult
and
and powerful.
painful. So yeah, I was telling you at the beginning, every woman's experience is different, because my friends, shared with me, less positive experiences with childbirth. And I think this created, those feelings of fear in me. They said that it was so painful, they didn't really enjoy it, but for me, it was different. So
Yeah.
I just want to make it clear to every woman who is listening,
Yeah.
everyone's experience is
It's
different.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what people need to actually focus on your personal journey and your experience, and focus on speaking up, okay, explaining your symptoms, and I know having that, especially with your midwife, collaborating with the healthcare system as well, because sometimes we blame the health system, oh, they didn't give us a good experience. But
Yeah.
in fact, we have not communicated what we
Exactly.
want or how we
Exactly.
feel. A lot of women just hide their symptoms and pain. They just carry on,
Yeah.
and they don't really. They're not outspoken. So this is a call for people to speak up. And if you're
Yeah.
struggling, and it's even after childbirth, you're struggling with postnatal depression, you can call on a friend. You can call on your healthcare professionals to assist you, even at times when you feel down, and family and friends will be of support.
Yeah.
A lot of women just feel like they feel ashamed sharing. Even what we are sharing now, some people feel ashamed talking about their birth stories, and creating that forum for people to learn from their story. But I'm happy that you shared that. Pregnancy can be positive as well, not all negative.
Definitely. And Vivian, what you're saying is totally true. I wrote a birth plan, so I communicated with my doctor, exactly what I want and don't want. So they were so aware of that, and everything that they were giving me, of course, like, they were informing me, so I remember, like, they had to do, like, an induction, so they had to give me some oxytocin and other hormones, but of course, like, I shared with them, like, what is accepted and what is not being accepted. Every woman should share that very openly during birth and before birth.
And what your preferences are. Some people just want the cesarean section. They don't want to go through labor, and that's okay. Some people just opt for that, and there shouldn't be, there shouldn't be this stereotype around that to say you can't do this or you're weak or you don't have the strength and all of that. So people should be allowed to plan their birth and share what they want with their midwives, and like plan something in so you're not taking unawares, and plan to have a positive experience as well. I would say after birth experience, reflection and healing. Okay, looking back at everything that has happened, how did you feel about your experience? Did the culture help? The being in Germany, did it help? Or did it silence you? I know you said a lot of positive things, but are there anything particular about the German system, about that experience? What has taken time to process? Are there things that took you time to process? I don't understand why they did this.
No, I don't think so, Vivian. Like, everything was really well explained, so, like, after birth, like, I had visits from the midwife, like, every 2 days, so in that aspect, it was very supportive. Like, this is something that doesn't exist in Lebanon, for example. Like, when I tell my family about it, they are always surprised, that there is a midwife who visits you, like,
at home.
Our home, because it's usually like, someone close to you, like, some of your relatives who visit you and offer the support. But here it's the midwife who's really like, well educated, experienced, and so on, so I really appreciated this. And of course, like, you have to find a doctor for your kid. I think that was a little bit challenging in a way, like, like which doctor to choose and stuff.
Sorry to interrupt. We're allowed to choose what doctors you want. Really?
So in Germany,
that's
like,
amazing.
In Germany, you have to contact, like the doctor that you want, and if they have capacity, they accept you. So,
so we're allowed to choose female or male doctors. Can you do that?
For as a gynecologist, you mean?
Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, because that's something many women are concerned about. They don't want male doctors who attend to them. So especially people from the Middle East, Islamic culture, they would prefer a woman to attend to them rather than a man because of their culture and because of their religion. So that's a very good system.
Is it different in the UK? Like, you just...
I didn't have the opportunity to choose, I want this, I want that, because I had an emergency cesarean section as well. So it was the person that was available there that had to take on that delivery. So, well, I wasn't given the choice to say that person, it was who was on duty at that time. And it was more about saving the life of the child and myself. But I didn't even mind at that point. But for some people with religious background, I'm sure that would be a very big concern to them, and it could prevent them from attending care or seeking advice and care support from the hospital because they don't want male attendants.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, Judan, thank you very much. So what will you want other migrant women to know? If a migrant, especially from the Middle East, is listening to you right now, from the UK, from all parts of the world, about being pregnant in Europe, what will you want them to know? Especially people that can be faced with cultural barriers, I would say, language barriers, and so much of these barriers. What will you want them to know?
I just want to tell them, to enjoy pregnancy, to enjoy childbirth, So if you've listened to this podcast, you would know that I had a very positive childbirth, So it's a nice experience. After pregnancy, after giving birth, do not isolate yourself. Please go out, enjoy it with a newborn, because the newborn phase, is something that never comes back, so enjoy every moment of it, and do not isolate yourself. This is my biggest recommendation.
Absolutely. That's very good advice. Do not isolate yourself. But I wanted to also ask, do you think if you had your child in Lebanon, you think you'd have had a positive experience, just thinking, looking at your culture there and system? Do you think it would be better in the hospital?
I wouldn't really judge it as better or worse. It would be definitely nice as well, with all of the support that is available.
Yeah.
But of course, not everything is 100%.
Like in Europe, yeah.
Yeah. I would definitely have missed many of the positive services I have here in Europe. And maybe sometimes the social pressure might be too much. In our cultures. So. Yeah, in Europe, you will have your own space and your own privacy. So
yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that social pressure. Because we do face a lot of social pressure, especially where I come from. A lot of even with simple things like the sex of the baby.
Yeah.
Where you have your baby, what class you belong to.
Yeah.
And things like that.
During pregnancy, I was still very active, and I remember I was still going to the gym when I was 8 months or so.
Wow. Okay.
And, I used to hear lots of judging comments from people in Lebanon, oh my God, you're still going to the gym and being active. You have to rest, and so this is what I mean with this social pressure. I would always hear comments here and there, so.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think I've also witnessed another lady being judged as well on social media. She was on Facebook. She was going to the gym and she was being judged. And I see people dancing with their pregnancies as well. But what we must know is every woman is different. Jinan might feel comfortable jogging. I never did anything jogging. I don't think I felt like I was going to die. In fact, if I did anything of that nature. So people are different.
Just do whatever you want.
Understand your strength level.
Exactly.
And know what is comfortable for you and what is not comfortable. So we shouldn't be pressured. And a lot of social influence in pregnancy, but we must stick to what we are comfortable with as much as possible. We talked about the social pressure. We shouldn't feel guilty for what we are comfortable doing or our preferences. What will you give women the permission to say when they are pregnant? What can they say without apology? And what they shouldn't feel guilty about?
Everything, I would say just we were advising women to share their preferences, their symptoms, so this is an absolute must, I would say, so do not feel do not feel that you cannot say certain things, just share it openly, with your healthcare provider, with your support system, and just, do what you feel like doing, So you mentioned, Vivian, you weren't comfortable, jogging or running during pregnancy, whereas I felt I can do it, So just trust your body, and do what you feel like. This is my advice to everyone listening.
Yeah. So finally, looking back at your whole experience and your culture from Lebanon and being in Germany and your experience to all other women, what does strength look like for you in hindsight?
I think strength is definitely raising a kid alone, in a foreign country without the support, that is needed many times, so this is definitely a strength. Another, you mentioned about, guilt, those feelings of guilt, at the beginning, I was feeling guilty for everything I do, honestly telling you, for example, I don't know, if I turned on the TV, let's say, when my son was really young, he wasn't even being able to look at the TV, I used to feel guilty. I used to think maybe this is not a good thing for me as a mother, to hold him in my arms and watch TV, for example, so, but sometimes, you have to also think about yourself, because if you wasn't feeling well, then, you cannot take care of the kid. So you have to think about yourself, trust yourself, and trust your feelings as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So strength looks like trusting yourself, trusting that feeling. Strength looks like taking that rest. Strength looks like doing what you feel comfortable with. And strength looks like asking for help and support from the people that we have around. So that's what we are defining. We're redefining strength right now in pregnancy. And that's what strength looks like. Speaking up, not feeling guilty, but just going for what you're comfortable with. And strength looks like having a plan for your pregnancy, your delivery plan. That's what strength looks like. So thank you for trusting us, Dr. Jinan, with your story, for sharing that experience with us and how you were able to navigate childbirth coming from Lebanon to Germany. Your experience reminds us that childbirth doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens inside culture, memory, language, and migration as well. And no woman should have to choose between honoring her culture and protecting her life, because what her life matters the most. And safe motherhood is the end result. That's what we want. We want to come out at that end, and we want to be successful at childbirth. So this is our Mother's Health podcast once again, and thank you all for listening, and bye-bye.
Thank you.